Hey, what's up YouTube? Lightsaber Samurai here, back again for another video. And what's up, Kenz Game Collection? This is a special response to you. A few weeks ago, I was taking a look at your channel and I was watching a video you had done on your PlayStation 1 collection. And in that, you had mentioned that whilst trading it in to get newer games, as so many of us had done back in the day, you had lost a lot of your collection via trading it off and haven't gotten the chance to build it back up. You showed off some of your games and wanted suggestions on some games that maybe you would want to pick up in the future. I was lurking in the comments and told you that I would give you a response on this video, and I finally got around to doing it. So without further ado, PlayStation 1 The Essentials, let's talk about it. Alright, so console like the one behind me, check. DualShock 1 controller, well, no duh. This isn't about the hardware. You already know about that. It's about the games. One thing I will suggest on the hardware is maybe picking up an arcade pad, something like this guy right here. This is the Ace Stick for the PlayStation part. I think that's how you pronounce that. You can get these still fairly cheaply used. This one here, I like this version of the arcade stick in particular. It's built like a tank, very solid, nice clicky joystick. This thing is all around bulletproof, and that's the way I like my arcade stick. So I would suggest getting something like this, considering some of the fighting games that I'm going to suggest, and we'll talk about that more here in a little bit. So anyway, hardware aside, this is mainly about the games, and I'm just going to go down the list of a nice little stack that I've got right here for you, starting with, let's take a look at a nice one by Konami. Okay, so this one here, Castlevania Symphony of the Night. I'm sure you know about this one, as a lot of people do. This was the first of the Metroidvania games. It came out in around 97, 98. Fantastic game. You play as Alucard, and he's in the castle to deal with his daddy issues. It takes place right after the events of Dracula X on the Turbo Duo. It's the direct sequel to that. Fantastic game, and one of the first Castlevania games that I really got into back in the day. It's a long game, beautiful graphics. It'll take you a while and keep you occupied for a while to get through. Once you think you've got it beat at 100%, castle flips upside down, and then you've got to run through the upside down castle with new bosses, new enemies, new cutscenes, all the like. So it'll take you just a little bit over 200% to actually beat the game. That one is rising up in price though, but if you can snag it, definitely do so. Okay, going on to racing games. Now, there's plenty of racing games on the original PlayStation. I'm sure you know about the Gran Turismos. Crash Team Racing is a very fun game. Probably my favorite racing game on the system, though, is Ridge Racer Type 4. This game is a 2-disc game. It came with, I believe, the arcade version of the original Ridge Racer, but it was remastered and revamped, and so it's the best version of the original Ridge Racer. Comes with, of course, the Type 4 version. Tons of karts in this one I like because it's less of a simulator and more of an arcade racer. Fantastic graphics. They rival even that of Gran Turismo 2 on the system, and this one is definitely a cheap game, going for in the US about 10 bucks or so. So definitely, if you're a big fan of racing games, or even a casual fan of racing games, this game runs smooth and looks fantastic, so definitely check it out. Okay, next up on the system, you had mentioned first-person shooters, and there aren't that many great first-person shooters on the original PlayStation, in my opinion. Probably about a good 6 to 8 or so, but definitely one of the best is Delta Force Urban Warfare, and we took a look at this in my Hidden Gems video. I want to say it was Hidden Gems Part 2, but don't quote me on that. I'll leave links in the description for my Hidden Gems videos as well, and that's got all the gameplay footage and everything you can take a look at. This is a fantastic game. It's basically like kind of like your Tom Clancy-esque first-person shooter, but it's not squad-based or anything. The graphics on this are fantastic for the PlayStation. That was one of the things that I really grabbed me when I first popped this in. This is a late PlayStation 1 game too, coming out after the PlayStation 2 had already dropped. I think this one came around in 2001 or 2002 or so. Again, very late PlayStation 1 game, but it shows. It's a fantastic game. We've taken a look at this before. Link in the description. Alright, moving on to RPGs. Now, there are no shortage of great RPGs on the original PlayStation. You had mentioned Final Fantasy IX, which was a fantastic game. I love exploring the Mist Continent with, Zidane and the crew. Of course, I can suggest Final Fantasy VII or 8, also great titles. Chrono Cross, Legend of Legaia, the list goes on and on. Xenogears. My favorite RPG on the system, though, was The Legend of Dragoon, and this came out about the time Final Fantasy VIII came out on the PlayStation, and this really gave Squaresoft a run for its money. It was Squaresoft and then everybody else when it came to making great RPGs, and this one came out and really just changed the landscape of what a great RPG could be on the PlayStation. I like this one primarily for the combat system. The combat system is a combo-based combat system similar to what you would see in Legend of Legaia. It follows Dart, and they are part of a race of people called Dragoons who carry these secret stones, and I mean, the game is just fantastic. It's hard for me to kind of remember the storyline now as it's been so long since I played it, but this is definitely one you need to check out. A large adventure at 4 discs long, tons of secrets, secret characters, secret bosses, all the like, everything that you would find in a Square RPG, but with a totally different spin on it. And again, one of my favorite games of all time when it comes to RPGs. So you see this one can still be had for about 30 bucks or so this is one I highly recommend. Okay, next up I've got a trio of fighting games on the system. Again, the PlayStation was a pretty good system when it came to fighting games, and one of my favorite 2D fighters, actually my favorite 2D fighter on the system, Street Fighter Alpha 3. This one is fantastic and works great with that arcade stick that I was showing off a few minutes ago. This one is, of course, it's the best in the Alpha series. It's the latest in the Alpha, well, it was the latest on the PlayStation of the Alpha series. Had a huge roster of characters, fantastic graphics, and yeah, that's basically all I can say about it. It's a very balanced fighting game, so you can pick up and get good with everybody. I didn't find anybody to be like cheap or anything like that in this game, so it's just overall very well polished game. This one's kind of rising in price. I got it for less than 20 bucks back in the day, but I think it's starting to creep up a little bit now, but definitely worth it if you can find it. It's also on the Dreamcast too. I know you're talking about picking up a Dreamcast again, so if you find it on the Dreamcast, it plays even better there. So okay, so next we're going into 3D fighting games, and the two I got, are my favorite. It depends on literally the day you ask me. Right now I'm gonna say that it was Soul Blade. It's definitely the best weapons-based fighting game on the system. This is based off the Namco arcade game titled Soul Edge that came out in '96. This came out the year after. Fantastic game. They added more characters and of course more modes of gameplay. The Edge Master mode in this is fantastic. It'll keep you occupied for hours and hours. You've got storylines with each character as you go through, and most missions you have to beat the enemies under certain conditions, like you have to beat one enemy with throw moves, or you have to beat an enemy by getting a ring out, things like that. As you defeat the enemies, you unlock new weapons for that character that you can use in the other modes, like the arcade mode and team battle and all and everything else. So this is a fantastic game. One of the first games, if not the first game, to institute the 8-way run, which is the sidestep that we see in a lot of 3D fighters ever since. Fantastic, gorgeous graphics that hold up even well today, and that intro movie is still one of the best I've ever seen. Soul Blade on the PlayStation. This is a game that's easily under $20 if you can find it, so definitely this one you gotta add to the collection. Okay, the last fighting game that we're going to take a look at, also by Namco, and while I showed a weapon-based fighter, this of course is the best hand-to-hand fighting game on the system, Tekken 3. This is one of the best fighting games of all time, hands down. This is the game that made me fall in love with the Tekken series, and I've been a huge Tekken fan ever since. Huge roster of characters, a lot of unlockable characters, a lot of different unlockable modes. Tekken Ball was hilarious in this. It was like beach ball, but you got to fight each other while you were playing beach ball. Tekken Force mode was a beat 'em up mode that it played a little clunky, but it was definitely still a lot of fun. You can pick any character from the base game and play through this beat 'em up with that character. You had all of their moves unlocked to you, and at the end of every mission you fight a boss, which is basically another opponent from the main storyline. So this is a fantastic game. I'm sure you already know that. This is critically acclaimed, and this is still a game I got this copy for $9.99. This is still a game that's relatively cheap, I assume, because they sold a bajillion copies of it across all regions. So if you see this one, definitely scoop this up. Okay, and the last game that I've got on the list of suggestions today, I know you had mentioned platforming games. You had mentioned that the Crash games were a little bit too hard, and they're also kind of hard for me to recommend, considering that the Insane Trilogy is out on PS4, so you can play all of the remastered versions of each game, and so it's hard to recommend those. The Spyro games are excellent and play well. They also have the Reignited Trilogy, so you can go that route if you want to as well, but besides those, I thought maybe then the Oddworld series, but the Oddworld series those series is kind of tough too. My favorite platformer, I think, on the PlayStation is Wildnine, and this one was developed by the team that created Earthworm Jim, and it definitely plays like a 32-bit version of Earthworm Jim. You play as this guy. He has a telekinetic beam that he shoots out, and he can grab enemies and slam them around. The cool thing about this game is throughout the levels there's a bunch of hazards. Usually most of them are one-hit kills, but you can pick up the enemies and throw them into the hazards, and you can destroy your enemies in a plethora of hilarious ways. I also covered this one in one of my Hidden Gems series. I will link that in the description as well, so you can see the gameplay. I would have did gameplay footage for this video, but I just wanted to crank this one out real quick, just to hurry up and get a response to you, because it had been too long already since I said I was going to make this video. But anyway, those are some suggestions. Alright guys, so that's all I've got for you in this video, but let's talk about it in the comment section below. Questions, comments, concerns, threats. What are some essential games that you think every collector of the PlayStation needs to have? Ken, I hope you like the suggestions. I hope you do pick a few of these up, and you'll have to tell me what you think about them later on down the line. Ladies and gentlemen, if you do like this content, go ahead and give me a like and a subscribe if you haven't done so already. You'll be glad you did. I do believe that's all I got for you. Lightsaber Samurai out. Peace.